Welcome to the final video in our viruses and prions series. This video is going to be all about prions, and I have to warn you up front, there's a lot more questions about prions than there are answers. Because this is a relatively new topic within the science community, there's a lot of research being done on prions, but still right now they are still pretty mysterious. Again, more questions than answers. So prions are proteinaceous infectious particles, okay? That just means they are proteins that can infect other proteins. So prions are not considered to be alive, okay? They are not made up of cells. They are in their entirety, they are proteins. That is it. Now remember, proteins have a specific 3D shape, okay? We say once they're made during translation, where it's just that chain of amino acids, the next thing they do is they fold into their proper 3D shape, because it's that 3D shape that allows them to do their specific function inside the cell. Now, before prions, we always thought an infectious agent had to have some sort of nucleic acid, right? Bacteria, helminths, protists, all of those pathogens that are living have DNA. Viruses, even though they're not living, they still have genetic material, right? They have nucleic acid. Now, a little bit more diversity there. Some viruses have DNA, others have RNA. But either way, all pathogens had some sort of nucleic acids. Well, prions broke the mold because they don't have any. Like I said, they're just proteins. Okay, so these prions, normally going through the individual's life, they act like a normal protein. They have their specific shape, they do their specific job within the cell. And for some reasons we haven't quite figured out yet, something triggers these proteins, which we call them PRPC. I don't know why. I think it's like proteinaceous, protein, it's the PRP part. Anyways, you don't have to remember that. But for some reason, something happens that triggers these proteins to go rogue. They change their shape. They become misfolded. And at this point, they become infectious. This misfolded protein is no longer doing its job. Instead, it's running around, coming into contact with other proteins, causing them to misfold. Before you know it, we have this gang of misfolded proteins, all these prions, okay? And eventually, what's going to happen is they aggregate together in brain tissue, and they cause brain tissue to become more like a sponge, okay? So if you check out this picture here, this is what brain tissue normally looks like. And when the prions all get together and aggregate together, see how it looks like a sponge? There's all these holes here. For this reason, we refer to diseases that are caused by prions to be TSE, transmissible spongiform encephalopathy. It's affecting the brain tissue, and it can be transmitted from one organism to another. And the spongiform is because the brain tissue looks like a sponge. So listed here are some prion diseases. So mad cow disease, sheep scrapie. With sheep scrapie, the infected sheep will actually scrape against a fence, like until like they're bleeding, causing their excuse me, skin to break open and bleed, and they'll die that way. And it's thought that mad cow comes from when these infected sheep were used to make cow feed. Because again, for a long time, we didn't know prions were a thing. We couldn't find any bacteria or viruses in these sheep. We didn't know why they were essentially going crazy. So those dead sheep would still be used to make cow feed. Well, cows would then eat the prions and they would get infected and they would go mad, hence mad cow disease. Excuse me, I apologize, y'all. So these are from ingesting the prions, but there's another one, CJD here, which seems to be genetic. Some humans that have this particular genetic disease, again, we're not entirely sure the reason why, but proteins that are normally folded a certain way, acting a certain way, misfold, become rogue, and become prions. There are also examples of people getting infected with prions during like a surgical procedure. So there's not really a common denominator in what causes these prions to become activated or how they're transmitted from one host to another. So again, here's just another picture of what a normal brain looks like. And then here's one that's been infected by prions. So again, a lot more questions than answers. We'll talk a little bit more about these diseases when we get to Unit 4. But until then, if you have any questions, please let me know.